Hello there. Um, I haven't made one of these videos in a while. I'm going to continue off on my uh, describing working at McDonald's. I believe in my last video I said there was going to be, I was going to say something about the little things for the front of house that the back of house also does, but I mean it's easy for back of house. It's so annoying for front of house. I think if I try to remember, because it's been a while since I did this video, I think the smaller things that they just didn't do would be just restocking and letting stuff run out. Like cups, obviously, is a big thing. And if you ran out of cups, you had to run all the way to the back, get another sleeve of cups, bring it up front. And usually it's more than one size, so you had to carry like 3 or 4, actually probably 5 or 6 because you ran out so much, 5 or 6 sleeves of cups. Usually it was large, medium, and small. You usually didn't have to care about the extra small cups that they usually give the kids. You usually didn't have to worry about those because the only time you really use those was usually when you're giving someone water. It was actually when I first started working there, the water, they gave you a small cup, but eventually before I left, they switched to the extra small cup, I guess because so many people were getting waters instead of regular drinks. So they said, give them extra small cup. But the people did that. They didn't stock those up. Sauces were another big one. At the places I worked, there were two different McDonald's I worked. One of the McDonald's, the sauces were just on the other side. On the other, there were 2 sides to the grill. One side made the sandwich, and then there was another side for making sandwiches, and then there was the grill in the back, and the fryers. But the sauces were just on the other side on some shelves above, steel shelves. And the other place I worked, they were all the way in the back, but they were prominently displayed, so it was so easy to get them. But yeah, if you ran out of sauce, you had to get the entire box, bring it down, open it, and then you had to get your sauce that you needed out of there and keep your orders going. You couldn't even refill your sauces at that point because it was so fast paced that you would move. You would have to just grab your sauce out of the box, put it in your bag, and then give it out. It was pretty bad. But we usually had about 4 or 5. No, of the most popular sauces, we had about 3 containers of it. So three little things that you slide into spaces. You pull out, you grab them, you put them back in, and those usually lasted you a while, probably about an hour or 2. So that would be fine. And then, refilling everything else, the straws, the lids, the add-ons to the kids' meals, the apples, the oranges we had for a while, the milk, the waters, just, a whole bunch of stuff. People just wouldn't restock. And then one other thing, I'm not sure if anyone else has talked about this, but there were buckets that you made. The buckets basically contained water with one of them was sanitizer. Oh no, there was 2 buckets. One for the clean towels, one for the dirty towels. My bad. At the place I work now, we have 2 buckets. One for just the cleaning fluid, and then we have the sanitation fluid that you use after. But the McDonald's had 1 bucket, one with cleaning sanitizer. You soaked the towels in, and you had a lot of towels, mind you, because this place got dirty so fast if you didn't clean. You had 1 bucket with sanitizer, and it was a big bucket. It was like, I had to be at least like 10-gallon bucket, and you put the towels in there, fill it about, and usually it was filled until about 3 or 4 inches below the top. So it was a lot. And then the other one was just full of water. Usually, that's what I did. It was just usually full of water because it was dirty towels. And eventually you ran out. We usually had to refill the bucket like twice. Once during the day, in the morning before we opened, and then once in the evening. So the rest of the crew and during the night wouldn't, have to remake their own towels. It would last the rest of the night. And there's a washing not dishwasher, a washer in the back. There's a washer in the back that you put the towels in, you clean them, and you usually had to wipe it down because there was so much grease in those damn things. And then you put it in, pressed a button that flowed in some soap and sanitizer, started it up, usually just did a quick wash just to wash them up real quick. And then after that, it usually took about 10, maybe 15 minutes, and then you would get another batch. And if you didn't do those and all of a sudden I had to do it at like 7 o'clock in the evening, it just got horrible for me. And another thing people didn't do, small things, both back and front of house. Before you leave, you have to sweep. A lot of people didn't do that. It's like, hey, before you leave, sweep. Now, obviously, if someone had just swept like a couple minutes before that, then you probably wouldn't need to. Maybe just a spot sweep if some stuff had fallen on the ground. But for the most part, if something had just been cleaned, they were understanding enough. They're like, hey, we just cleaned. Just wipe some stuff down. Maybe fill your station up a little bit and you can go. But as I just described, a lot of people didn't do that. And they're just like, I'm just going to clock out. Because at McDonald's, they changed it now, I'm pretty sure. But back when I first started, basically what you had to do to clock in and clock out was you had to go to one of the machines that you also use to ring in food. There's a little special functions button in the top right hand corner, a little below that, but about in the middle of the screen, right hand side. You pressed it, and then there was a clock in, clock out time, and that function, as far as I know, is still on there. But I haven't been back there in a while. You would press the button, enter your employee number, enter the first 3 of your social, and then you would, that would clock you in. And it would clock you in at the specific time that you came in there. And you didn't need a manager's permission to clock in, clock out. Yeah, no, you didn't. But the new systems they have, it has a fingerprint scanner with it, but you can, if for some reason the fingerprint scanner doesn't work, you can also type in your code. And that one for specific, like they input your specific times in there. So if you try to clock in before your time, you need a manager's approval. If you try to clock in after your time has come and gone, then you need a manager's approval. It's just a more secure system. That way people can't just clock in, clock out for like specific people. It's more for that because one of the other things that we would do that'd be against policy is if one of our coworkers was running late, but they, if some of them were already being warned, like if you show up late again, we're going to write you up. Basically, they would give you their number and you would clock them in. That was one of the things some people would do. I think I did it once maybe, but I never really did it just for the simple fact that I just not that I didn't feel comfortable with it. The one person I did do it for, I'd known him for a while. He did his work. So, I mean, yeah, I don't want him to leave because he's one of the few guys in there who actually does his damn work. But that was one of the things I did. Another thing people did, and this is also one of the reasons why I think they switched systems, was people would clock in from their break because you had two types of breaks. You had a 30 and you had no, three types, my bad. You had a 15, which you took if you were working between 3 hours and 30 minutes and 5 hours, if I remember correctly. Or no, 3 hours and 4 hours. There we go. If you're working between 3 hours and 4 hours, then you would take a 15. If you're working, I'm trying to remember. If you were working between 4 hours and 1 minute to 6.5 hours, then you would take a 10 and a 30. If you were working anything longer than 6 hours, you would take 2 10s and a 30. And at McDonald's, you needed to take your breaks. Like at Buffalo Wild Wings, where I work right now, you don't need to take your breaks. You sign a little waiver saying you don't need to take your breaks. That doesn't mean that, like if you don't ask for your break, you're not going to get your break at Buffalo Wild Wings. But if you ask for your break, a manager has to find someone to cover you, and you're going to get your break. And if you don't get your break, they just had me sign something that they would give me like an hour's extra worth of pay or something, that since I didn't take a break the entire time. But back on subject, these people would clock in from their breaks at McDonald's, and since right now with the current system that they had, that you didn't need to sign in, or the older system they had, my bad, you didn't need to have a manager's permission to clock in if you clocked in when you were out of time for your break. Because in the new system, if you also don't clock in during a certain time, then you need a manager's permission. And then all of a sudden they ask you, well, why didn't you clock in for after your break was done? It's like, it's just a security thing. And they would clock in, and then they would go back and talk to their buddies again. And there was this one time, this group of 3 girls who was working that day, and it was a day shift, so it was pretty busy. They clocked out for their break, did their entire break, clocked back in, and then went and sat back down, finished their food, and then went to work. And I didn't even notice it until one of my managers, who was doing paperwork in the back, looked at the times and saw that they had just come back right then, when he was pretty sure that they had clocked out a while ago. So he went and checked their times, and they had clocked in like at least 10 or 15 minutes before they actually went back to work. So he told them, he clocked them out, and he told them to get out. He told them to leave. We were pretty short-handed that day. But other than that, I mean, I think it was pretty self-evident what was bad, even to the customers, what was bad to the crew members, what was bad to the managers. And I'm pretty sure they figured out how to they figured out what we needed to do. It's just that no one was willing to do it. So that's what made me mad about front of house for the most part. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, and I'll immediately start up another video talking about back of house. I still got plenty of time. I'll immediately start up another video talking about back of house and or the kitchen and what went on back there.